Hello, and welcome back to Screams from the Vault. Tonight we open a case so twisted, so haunting, it still chills the streets of Sao Paulo to this day. This is the story of Suzanne von Richthofen, the girl who turned her family home into a house of horrors. So lock your doors, turn down the lights, and let's open the vault.
It was 2002. Brazil was celebrating its victory in the World Cup. Joy filled the streets, confetti danced in the air, and the country was united in triumph. But in one quiet, gated community in Sao Paulo, a very different kind of story was beginning to unfold. Suzanne von Richthofen was born on November 3, 1983, to a German engineer, father Manfred Albert von Richthofen, and a Brazilian-Lebanese psychiatrist mother, Mauricia von Richthofen. They were wealthy, influential, educated. Their home was the picture of privilege, a mansion behind guarded gates. Suzanne, their daughter, was intelligent, charming, and seemingly well-behaved. To outsiders, the Richthofen family was perfect. But behind the locked doors of their luxurious home, something dark was growing, a seed of resentment that would soon bloom into something unspeakable. In the summer of 1999, Suzanne began practicing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and that's where she met Daniel Cravinhos. He was everything her parents disapproved of: poor, unmotivated, a habitual marijuana user. But Suzanne didn't care. She fell for him hard. At first, her parents tolerated the relationship, but soon they began to see Daniel for what he was, a bad influence. They demanded she ended. She refused. When they threatened to cut off her allowance, something inside Suzanne snapped. Her love for Daniel turned into obsession, and obsession turned into rage. Halloween night, October 31st, 2002. Suzanne took her younger brother Andreas to an internet cafe to play games with friends. Nothing unusual, just another teenage night out. But as midnight crept closer, something sinister was taking shape. Earlier that evening, Suzanne had quietly disabled the home's security system and turned off the cameras. When she returned home, Daniel and his older brother Christian were waiting. Suzanne opened the gate, letting evil inside. The brothers wore hoods, iron bars in hand. Suzanne led them in. She tiptoed up the stairs, checked that her parents were sleeping peacefully, and then she walked back down and sat on the couch. She didn't scream. She didn't cry. She waited. Upstairs, her parents' quiet sleep was shattered by the sound of metal against bone. Manfred and Mauricia were struck repeatedly, brutal, merciless blows. But they didn't die right away. The brothers panicked. Daniel ran to the bathroom, grabbed wet towels, and pressed them over their faces to silence their gasps. When that failed, he fetched a jug of water and drowned Manfred. Mauricia was still alive, so they tied a plastic bag over her head and waited until she stopped moving. When it was over, Suzanne walked upstairs. She looked at her parents' lifeless bodies and smiled. To make it look like a robbery, they scattered papers around, took some cash, but left behind phones, jewelry, even a gun. Their burglary was sloppy, a mockery of chaos. Then they left. Daniel and Suzanne checked into a motel to establish an alibi. Christian went to a nearby fast food restaurant. At 3 a.m., Suzanne returned to pick up her brother Andreas from the internet cafe. When they got home, she pretended to discover the crime scene, calling the police in horror. But the police weren't fooled. Something didn't add up. The alarm had been disabled, the crime scene was too neat, and Suzanne, she was too calm. The very next day, she was seen swimming with Daniel, laughing as if nothing had happened. And only hours after her parents' funeral, she threw herself a birthday party. Detectives knew something was wrong, and when Christian bought a brand new motorcycle with cash, crisp $100 bills, the investigation took a sharp turn. Within days, all three were arrested, and Suzanne confessed. Brazil was transfixed, a nation obsessed. How could this golden girl, polite, beautiful, and fluent in 3 languages, slaughter her own parents? In court, Suzanne showed no emotion. While the brothers wept, she sat still, smiling at times, even laughing. She claimed she did it for love, that Daniel had manipulated her, that she feared losing him. The prosecution had another story. They said greed was her true motive. She wanted the inheritance, the mansion, the money, freedom without effort. They called her the personification of evil, and the jury agreed. On July 22, 2006, Suzanne von Richthofen and Daniel Crivinos were each sentenced to 40 years in prison. Christian received 38. Years later, Suzanne tried and failed to get house arrest. Her brother Andreas sued her to block her from inheriting a cent of their parents' fortune and won. Love, greed, betrayal. The 3 darkest words in the human language. Suzanne's story reminds us that monsters don't always hide in shadows. Sometimes they live right under the same roof. Thank you for watching tonight's tale from Screams from the Vault. If you want more true horror from the darkest corners of human nature, hit that bell, subscribe, and share your thoughts below. Until next time, keep your lights on.